Hey, everybody, it's David Duford here at davidduford.com, where I help insurance agents like you become top producing insurance professionals. And today I have the pleasure of having Danny. Say hello out there, Mr. Danny Ray.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Danny
Hey,
is an individual that I've had the pleasure of actually sharing a sales panel with back at the, I don't know what it's called, the digital
Digital
marketing.
Life Insurance Mastermind, yeah.
You got it. Yeah. And so we got up there and talked shop, and it was the first time I met Danny, and it was great because Danny brings a ton of experience selling insurance over the phone. And that's really the topic of today's presentation. What Danny's going to do is go into detail about how, of course, how he got into this business, a little bit about himself, but he's going to give you the whole anatomy of how he works final expense leads, other insurance leads over the phone and sells them over the phone, so that you can get a better idea of how selling over the phone with final expense or insurance actually works.
Yeah.
So Dan's got an interesting history in the sales business and telesales. So why don't you kind of tell me a little bit more about you and how you've gotten to where you are today?
Yeah, I've been doing telesales literally over the phone since 1993. I started my career as a telesales, I want to say agent, but as far as a broker. Back then, I worked for a couple of companies. One you probably know very well, Stratton Oakmont with Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, that guy.
It was actually a cold caller for Jordan Belfort. I mean, his straight
Wow.
line, pitch, his straight line sales techniques work very well. I've been using them ever since. And also implemented my sales techniques around it. Worked at another place, another movie, Boiler Room, but I say, so back then I've got a lot of my sales techniques, those places taught me how to think,
Yeah.
as far as what it takes to really succeed, get out of your own way, Other than that, I started, I was a multiple business owner in the early 2000s. Okay. Then obviously I switched to insurance in the early 2010s. Okay. So I've been doing life insurance now, final expense and also term, GUL, everything in the life insurance space pretty much for about 8 years.
And did
So
you get started in insurance immediately over the phone?
no. Actually, when I first got my license, I worked at a company, AIL, when I first
Oh, yeah.
started
Okay.
out. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, AIL. So I worked there for about 6 months. Okay. And doing the whole face to face, the way they generated leads and everything
Sure.
else through the way they did it anyway. Then I ventured off. I worked for actually Lincoln Heritage for like a month.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So the leads are great and all, but the 55%. So I'm like, you know what? I'm a telesales guy. So
Yeah. Right.
make a long story short, Select Quote found my
Yeah.
resume somewhere, called me up, said come in and do an interview. They put me in a panel of 6 guys, literally six managers in a room, and I had to
Wow.
close each one of them that has to hire me. So they hired me, and I said, listen, I'll be your top agent within a year's time. All I want is the opportunity that you all had. They hired me, and lo and behold, within a year's time, I was the top agent in the entire company, pretty much. Especially on the East Coast in the Jacksonville office, no doubt.
And so the audience knows, we all, I think if we sell insurance long enough, we hear a Select Quote.
Of
They're a big
course,
call center type of operation, right?
yeah,
All telephonic sales over the phone,
everything telesales, yeah.
mostly term, probably
All
back
term,
in the
yeah.
day,
I mean, I
right?
think they're switching it. Back in the day, all
Right.
term, strictly term. Now I think they're doing a little bit of switching into the final expense part of
You
it.
know, I talked to another big call center up in the Midwest, and that's a thing too. And it's probably part of the reason why you're doing final expense now is there's just more of a market for it and more support products.
There's more of a market for it and scaling it. If you want to scale it, I mean, it's kind of hard to get. If you want to expand, open up an office and expand. It's kind of challenging to do that with term because the cash flow is not there. People writing term starting out. If you're training new guys, it's hard for them to fathom coming from not a sales environment to this sales environment and saying, well, guess what? You're not getting a paycheck for 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
Whereas
Right.
final expense, it's instamatic. It's quick. It's in some cases in a couple of days with some carriers. You know,
At what point did you transition to doing, because you're still doing a little bit of term, you're doing term and final expense, but I'm curious,
yeah.
at what point did you begin to focus more on the final expense telesale side of things?
Well, back actually the digital mastermind. All right, seeing with Anthony Martin was doing,
Yeah.
seeing with
Yeah.
other guys were doing. Big numbers. Also, I really wanted to get into the renewals. When you write
Yes.
term, don't get me wrong, the front end is great. You make a boatload of money, but you don't want to be doing this for 30 years. You know what I mean? So you want to build something of an asset that's going to pay you over a long term. So
Sure.
final expense, my game plan is get involved with final expense, perhaps maybe scale it out, start next year, build an office, and also do med subs too, do a whole mixture. If I could
Yes.
have a room with 10, 15, 25 guys pumping out final expense and doing for me doing it as well. And my fiance, she's actually newie. She's a newbie too. She's doing very well.
Right.
Then I'm thinking every October we're gonna have thousands of clients to go to for med subs.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Medicare, anything. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so that was really what I'm really looking to do is transition. I always do term. Don't give me my pinnaclequote.com. My website is geared for term GUL, but it also 70% of my traffic are over 70-year-old people that are on pensions, healthy.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, they're over 70.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean pensions. I mean they can afford a $400 or $500 payment a month. So that's a lot of majority of my leads for my website comes from that. But also we just started building a burial niche site as well. I do Facebook leads, as well. That's all my girl calls, and she's writing $3,000 to $5,000 a week just off those. And she's new. She's never sold anything in her life.
Right.
So I mean, the main goal is I'll always write term GUL, whatever lead you put in front of me. I'm gonna engage with and give them what they want. Okay. But I think switching to the final expense area is going to give me more of a renewal, residual income, and then also have a book of business to go after med subs October to December.
Yeah,
so that's really
the pipeline for sure.
Yeah,
that's definitely renewal based.
Oh yeah. It's just it's canny. It's nice.
So I'm curious, with your background, I've always suspected this, but I don't know personally because I've never done it. But would you agree? And correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Is regardless of the person, the background, the age, is selling life insurance just life insurance? I mean, is it kind of the same kind of concept sale regardless of the age and the background or demographics or income level?
Well, it's a great question. I mean, it all comes down to obviously different age demographics is gonna be the pinpoint of which product they really need.
Right.
But I mean, as far as the psychological, now I'm very big on philosophy, the philosophy of a sale and the psychological part of the sale. It's all about hitting the emotion button, whether you're 35 or 40 years old, just starting out, and you're, you got a family that you need to protect. What I always tell clients on the phone is, especially at that age, is 7,500 people die a day. It's just a fact. You don't know when your number is going to come up, and when your kids are born, you want to make sure that whatever you envision for them is going to be intact in your absence if you die. So that's for that particular demographic of client, anywhere from 35 to 50. Then obviously the empty nesters, you get more into a GUL final expense category. Right. And then obviously at 65 and over, it's either term is really not a good thing for a client at that age unless they're protecting a mortgage. That's all they're looking for if they have a specific game plan of what they're trying to do. But usually at that point, it's a GUL. I usually do GULs to age 121 or age 100 when it's a little more than final expenses they need. Because going whole life at that age on a fixed income, a big policy is just too expensive for them. Yeah. Okay, unless they demand it. No, it's okay, we'll have it. Then other than that, it's final expense burial policies. Anywhere from $5,000 for a burial, cremation, up to $30,000 for a final expense.
Great. So you mentioned leads. Yeah. You obviously get, from what you described, organic leads from your website where people find you at Pinnacle Quote.
Yeah.
Are you doing purchase leads? And if so, kind of describe what kind of purchase leads you do and kind of how they're developed and just a general overview.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like you said, my websites, insuranceforburial.com and pinnaclequote.com, they're organically generated. Okay. I just pay for them with blood, sweat, and tears, just working every day, a couple hours a day. Okay. But more than that, at my GA, digital BGA, I purchase leads from them as well. Okay. They have really good, great quality SEO leads, pretty much the same leads I get for my website, but just more of a broad. Also Facebook. I mean, ad assassins. I mean, Jerry Moore, he's fantastic. I mean, I've done quite a few campaigns with them. The ROI is just, to me, unreal. I mean, 10-to-1 ROI.
It's great. Over the phone. It's excellent.
Over the phone. Yeah.
I'll take that face to face.
Yeah. It's just, and my girl primarily calls them all the time. I do a lot of mix. But I probably, when I purchase leads, it's usually digital BGA. They're in-house leads, which are really probably some of the best telesales leads out there.
Mhm.
Okay, and Facebook leads which generate. I mean, some of the leads I generate from Facebook for Lisa Marie, who's my fiance. You're talking $3 a piece.
That's good.
Three to $6 a piece, depending, whether what state it's in.
And
So
this is Jerry's ad assassin course.
yeah, I mean, it's
Mm.
just amazing. Yeah, it's just I think you interviewed him last week, but
Yeah.
it's just amazing. It's just a really ROI is just. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not like it's the holy grail, but it's you're getting warm bodies to pitch. You're getting people that are say hello and they talk to you. It's
Yeah,
not
they
like,
listen.
you know what I
They're
mean?
conversating. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all you need as an insurance agent. That's what you want. You just want somebody to engage.
Yes.
So when it comes down to that, I mean, again, there's a lot of stuff. A lot of times, they're like, 6 or 7 of them are going to be people that are probably wasting your time. And the best thing about it is it generates so many leads. You don't want to waste your time. It's time management. Don't pitch in the face of no interest. Just,
Right.
all right, wish you the best luck. Get on to the next phone call, because you will get 3 or 4 out of the 10 that are closable. And if you can write 1 to 2 out of those 10, your ROI is going to be
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, that's the goal, man.
So
do you care what the lead even says?
Not really.
Why?
Because it's I'm going to go at the client with the same tenacity and the same focus I would with whether it's a final expense lead or a term lead or a GUL. I mean, I really go after a lead the same way. I mean, the best analogy I can tell you is the Broadway show. I think you've heard me say this in Vegas, where if you go to a Broadway show, whether it's today, or next week or 5 years from now, you see 3 shows that they're all exactly the same. That's your presentation. So every pitch or every presentation I get off, whether it's final expense or term or GOL or whatever, it's exactly the same. Now, again, final expense is a little different. You get a little different demographic, but the concept is pretty much the same, And it's just it's the first couple of seconds on the phone call is getting control of the conversation, let them know that I'm control, they're not, in a very subtle way.
Right.
And then going through the whole qualification. And usually I'm at rates when it's term. I mean, half my sales are done within 15 minutes. That's
Right.
stone cold. That's not following up. That's getting on the guy on the phone and just walking right through the process right to the end. I assume the sale from start to finish. If there's an objection, they'll let me know. But a lot of times, I tell them right off the bat, I said, listen, you kicking ties, you window shopping. You're looking to get something started today? I can get you done in 15 minutes. And when you cut through the chase out of the way, and I tell them I'm a no-nonsense kind of guy, more than half the time, I'm like, let's do it. Let's go. Let's get this done.
So how do you take that control within the first couple of seconds?
It's more my presentation. I mean, it's just like this. It's David. It's Danny Ray from Pinnacle Quote, reaching out to you in reference to the inquiry that you made online at our website, pinnaclequote.com. The guy says yes. I say first and foremost, okay, I'm the licensed agent in whatever state they're in. They make me say that. I'm also on a recorded line. And what I'm going to do for you is I will find you the best price policy in the industry, hands down. It's just what I do for a living, and it will be with an A-rated carrier better. So if you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to jump in. Okay, they say yes.
So you're cutting right to the chase, man. It's not like I'm a field underwriter that I'm going to sell you a policy is what you're saying.
Basically, yeah. Basically, what I'm telling them is there's really no point of going anywhere else if you shop around. And I tell clients this: I'm more than happy to shop around till you're blue in the face. Okay, after 2 phone calls, it's going to validate my price, and you're going to know that I'm the real deal. So a lot of times I'll have them do the application. And I'll say, shop around, please. Go talk to your wife, shop around. 2 phone calls, you're going to know this is going to validate what we just talked about.
Right.
And a lot of times they probably won't even waste their time because, again, I sell on the process. I don't sell on price. I sell on product, what they need. And again, it all depends what they need. And I always, depending on the demographic or the age, I always go after the emotion, which is their kids. They die tomorrow. What are your kids going to do? Their spouse. You die tomorrow. What is your spouse going to do? Okay, the house that you live in, if you pass away tomorrow, how are they going to pay the mortgage?
How soon do you start asking those questions?
I mean, literally right after the introduction I just gave you, I say the first thing I say, if it's a term lead or whether it's a final expense lead, I'll say, I see you're inquiring about $500,000 in coverage on a 20-year term. Is that right? Yeah. Well, how'd you come up with that number? I just want to make sure you're not over-insuring or under-insuring yourself. Then they just start talking. They'll tell me exactly what they're looking for, And I'll remember that. And whatever they say, I always feel like they're underinsuring themselves because they don't really know, unless they're CPA or they're certified financial planner told them what to get. So I always I beat around the bush. I say, listen, we could talk about mortgages, income replacement, we could talk about college tuition, but it really comes down to two very important things. Your youngest child's age, because that's the person that financially depends on you, more than anyone in the world, and your paycheck. Because if you die tomorrow, your paycheck dies with you. So the first thing I ask him is the youngest child's age. They tell me they're 5. I know he needs 15 years income. That's what he needs. And if he said makes 100 grand, I'm like, listen, you need 15. I'll give you the quote for the 500 you're looking for, but I'm also going to give you the quote on what you need, the $1.5 million. You just let me know which one makes sense.
Do you push hard if they say, well, I'm going to do the 500? Do you try to get that
No, I said, listen,
beyond that?
No, that's a great question. What I normally do, okay, depending if it's a 30-year term, this is a great strategy and a lot of agents don't do. I'm a big believer in a layered or stacking policy strategy. So if you got a client I want a $500,000 30-year term, okay, and he needs $1.5 million, I'll say no problem. Get a price on the 500, but I'll tell him what happens if I get you 1.5 million roughly for the same price, okay? Or I ask him, how much? Let me ask you a question. After 20 years from now, you think you'll need that 500 grand? Usually they'll say no. They're like, no, I don't need it after 20, because again, the kids are grown. The house is paid off. And the reason why they're purchasing the insurance, chances are, is not going to be the same reason why they keep it 21 years from now.
Right.
So that what I try and do at that point is I front load a policy. I say, listen, you got a 3-year-old, you got Joey at 3, and you got Lori at 5. Okay. The next 10 years is the most important part of the next decade. Is the most important part. You die. I mean, you got young kids. So what I say, listen, let me make a suggestion to you. All right, let me show you a layered strategy. Okay, we know how much 500,000 is for a 30-year term. What I suggest you do is this: you do $1 million 10-year term, you do a $250,000 20-year term, and we'll do a $250,000 30-year term. Now, believe it or not, it's going to be maybe about 10 or 15% more than that 500,000 for 30, because you're front loading it. So now the client's like, wow, okay, that makes a lot of sense, because every 10 years he's outliving his income. So Mr.
Right.
Jones, why protect it? Why protect income that you outlived? You already outlived it, right? You just said it yourself before. You ain't going to need 500 grand after 20 years, but you're going to pay up to 30. So let's front load this. Okay, so you get $1 million 10 years.
And you probably need it more. Yeah, makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah, when you need more, and then by the time the kids are rolling out, throwing the cap and gown up in the air, in the 20th year, the beauty of it is every decade your premiums come down too. Now in 21 years from now, you're going to be sliding into retirement on a fixed income. Would you rather pay $500,000 for 30-year term or $250 for 30-year term, knowing that you protect your family accordingly for the previous 2 decades? And if you explain it right, and I do, I believe I'm one of the best at it. It's a no-brainer. They're just like, let's do it. That sounds great.
Perfect.
Getting so much more, and again, they're thinking about their kid because they know 500 grand. I mean, 500 grand gets the 3-year-old to 8. What are they going to do after that, Mr. Jones? What are they going to do then? So when they know they can get $1.5 million for at least that 10 years, and then 500 grand for the next decade, and then slide into retirement with 250 to take care of the missus, God forbid something happens. Yeah, it's a tremendous strategy, and you literally save about 52% compared to, say, if you got $1.5 million 30-year term and you broke it up, you save 52%.
So I think it's important. What you're doing here is you're not reading into too much what the lead says. I want a 20-year, 500,000 term.
No.
Well, a lot of people don't know what they need or what they should have or what they really want. And when you can come up with creative sales solutions like this, you create happy customers.
Yeah, and you know what? Clients love strategies.
Yes.
They love strategies. Okay. They like a game plan. They love it. They like to see the end game. Okay, so yeah, strategies are very, very important when it comes to a client. They love them. They absolutely love them. And it comes with people that have unmanaged diabetes, okay, where they want a 30-year term. And I say, why? But this could be fixed in like 6 months, and then we can reapply and then go out 30 years when we get a better rate. Or if they're a tobacco user, yeah, I'm going to quit I'm looking to quit. So why are you paying a 30-year tobacco rate? I'd rather put them in a 10-year term, get the price cost low, and then when you quit, then we go out 30 years. Now, when you do that, the client knows you care.
Right.
You're not thinking about the commission you still, because every agent will be like, yeah, I want that 30-year term tobacco rate. No, they when you do it that way, the client's like, wow, my agent really cares. He's trying to save me money. And I tell him, stick that money back in your pocket where it belongs,
And you move from an order taker to a trusted advisor. You know, these people are
Yes.
going to do business with you in the future too.
Yeah, it's so key. It's so key not to be a sales guy, but more an advisor.
So you go through this creative offer, right?
Yeah.
Let's say you take you through this term deal. You do the layered structure. They say something like, wow, that makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
Is that your signal to close? What do you say at that point to start the process? I assume you jump in. This is like, it's time to go for the close here. What do you do
Yeah.
at this point?
I mean, at that point, I mean, once they say that's a great strategy, I say, of course it is. I say, of course it is. All right. Do you require a middle initial in your name? I go
Right.
right into the application. You know,
Okay.
a lot of times when I'm going through the pitch, even if it's not a laid strategy, I'll get right to I'll get right down to the health questions. Okay, and I ask a very extensive, I have 30 some odd questions, but I usually do them in like 2 minutes. Okay, right
Okay.
down. I have a set one that I write down. I'll know the rating class. You know, right after I ask them, I tell them, listen, thank you so much for sharing that information. Now I can accurately pinpoint the carrier that will give you that best rate. I always give them the best price, best product. Okay, and I tell them why. And 9 out of 10 times, they always pick the best product, whether it be a living benefits product if they want term or GUL, or a CCUL protective life where it's decreasing term after the term, but they don't have to prove insurability, or the best price. And I let them pick and choose because they think they have control. You know, it
Right.
makes them feel good. But also, you know, nobody knows more than what they want more than they do. And I tell them that, listen, you don't need me to tell you what you need. You know what you need. I'm just going to lead you into finding out why you need what you need. You know, let's figure that out together. But normally, at 9 times out of 10, I say, does the price fit your budget? The second they say yes, I'm into the application. I don't say anything else. They say
Okay.
yes, and I'm
So
like,
you give a price based on pre-qualification of health and
yep,
risk, a rate class.
yep.
What if they object to the price? What if they're not totally convinced on it? What
Well,
happens after that?
with depending on the situation, if it's a final expense policy, or if I'll do final expense because that's the majority of your audience. They
Sure.
say, well, that's not going to fit my budget. I say, listen, half of something is better than zero of nothing. Okay, and
Good.
I'm talking final expense. I'm thinking kids. I'm thinking about, listen, when you pass away, 46% of people, seniors your age, don't have insurance. Okay, and it always falls into one person's lap 90% of the time. Your kids. Now you already told me you wanted the funeral, the burial. That's $10,000 to $12,000. You know, so I mean, it's if you die tomorrow, can your kids come up with $10,000 to $12,000 on a 3-day notice? They're always going to say no. I'm like, listen, let me make a suggestion. Okay, if in fact, you know, let me ask you something. Obviously, you know your kids better than anybody. Okay, so if you were to pass away tomorrow, do you think your kids would like to come up with 5 or 6,000, or would they prefer 10 to 12? Oh, 5 or 6,000. Then I go into like, listen, this is what we got to do. Okay, so, half of something is better than zero of nothing. My suggestion is this: we go ahead, we'll put you in for $5,000, whatever it is, whatever half of that is, just to see if they bite. We'll put you in for $5,000. Okay, we'll get you approved. Now, again, most of these clients in the final expense, the payment's not coming out until the third Wednesday of the month, right? So
Right.
if it's early in the month, I say, listen, we'll get you approved. Let's get you approved. Okay, that's the most important thing. At least you know you got approved. The product's approved. All right. So I'll be like, listen, we'll do 5,000. It's X amount of dollars. That's a lot more affordable for you. Yes. Okay. Then I go right into the application. I go right. I don't even waste time. I don't shoot the turd, whatever you want to call it. I go right into the conversation, right into the application. Okay. Until they give me brushback, and then I sit back, and I always give them suggestions. I never tell them, this is what you need to do. Let me give you a suggestion. Okay. But the suggestion's got to make sense. Okay. It just can't be, it's got to be with their interests at heart. A
Right.
lot of agents stare in the back of their mind. They look at a commission. They're like, $1,800 going to make this, and the voice in the back of their head is telling them, they talk themselves out of the sale sometimes. But when you really put the client, I know you do this, David. When you put the client's own interests at heart, and you just don't sell, you advise. Even if it didn't work out, okay, they're going to remember you because you're so different than anybody they ever talked to. And
Right.
then when they're ready, they'll call you. I mean, I get a lot of callback. I'll get emails from people I spoke to a month ago. Danny, I'm ready. Can you call me up? And I call them up. The application is 5 minutes, or if it's Royal Neighbors, or if it's Liberty Bankers, it's a 3-way phone call with the insurance company, and they're covered in 30 minutes. The policy's done in 30 minutes. So a little bit different with term, but yeah, the final expense is it's fun. It's fun.
Let me step back for a moment, and what you described earlier in the, I guess, called the fact finder process is more of term. Yeah. And again, sake for my audience, most of my audience sells final expense or seniors. Yeah. could you describe what you do differently when you're dealing with a final expense lead versus, say, a younger term type of clientele?
Final expense lead, it's again, it's all about the concept's pretty much the same with me, okay? But it's just, again, different demographic, different protection, right? Um, as far as the final expense, I go into, again, hitting that emotion. I make them tell me what they're looking for. A lot of the final expense leads that I get, I don't even know the dollar figure. I don't even know what they're looking for. It's just name, email, gender, and date of birth. All right. And my whole thing is going to it with protecting their kids and everything else, and talking about it. I present it as a 3-tier program. Very rarely do I say life insurance. Okay, when I speak to somebody about final expense, it's all about the program. It's all about eligibility, qualification, and the program, which one you qualify for. And I break it up to 3 tiers. Tier 1 is level benefit. Tier 2 is modified or graded. Tier 3 is guaranteed issue. Okay, and I tell them it's all represents, based on health. Then I go into, I ask like 9 health questions. Okay, just to get them the general idea what they qualify for.
Right.
Okay, and then I say, well, congratulations, you qualify for tier this. Even if they have health issues, I tell them, listen, if you were sitting next to Jack LaLanne, who's got a picture of health, you're getting the same rate as they are. Okay, and even though you're banged up and you're taking insulin and everything else, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I basically would say, listen, you're getting the same rate as them. They're like, really? I'm like, yeah. And also Royal Neighbors with the if I find a client's got a lot of medications that they take and they're spending, and I ask them, how much money you spend a month on your medications? Okay, then I gear them to Royal Neighbors because they get that free membership, which is a discount program with, if you have a client that has a lot of medications, all right, I'm not advocating Royal Neighbors in no way. I'm just saying it just makes sense. And the discounted program will save them hundreds of dollars a year. And if you present it right, that price that they're paying, they don't even care. Okay.
Right.
And I have a story too, being an agent. I'm a member. I have that membership too. I went to a dentist. And I tell this to clients. I went to the dentist 2 weeks ago, and I got my tooth cracked, and I got a cap on my tooth. I used the Royal Neighbors membership card. My tooth would have cost $1,400. It cost me $800.
Wow.
I'm 46 years old. So when I tell that to a client, only because of, listen, I'm 46, and this is how much it saved me. You're a senior. You need this every month. So, you know what I mean?
Teeth left and right.
Glasses, whatever. I mean, even prescriptions,
Yeah.
I saved about 40%. So I always have whenever I try to sell, I always relate. And I always try to give them a story of relate.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just so they can see and they can understand it. But yeah, with the final expense, yeah, towards the end, it's really pretty simple at that point. It's see what they qualify for, if that fits your budget, and then I go into the dollar drop. Half of something's better than 0 nothing. And 9 times out of 10, they're going to say no. Now I don't push them to the point where they get mad and angry. I say, you know what, I tell them, listen, I got 30 other people to talk to. Let me give you my number. If it gets to a certain point where we're just circling, okay, that's the whole thing about telesales is great. Listen, here's my number. Give me a call when you're ready. I'll touch base with you in the next 3 days or 4 days. Okay, but I tell them, listen, I got 30 other people to speak to. It's just, and they appreciate that too. I don't say that in an arrogant way. I say, listen, obviously, I'll email this stuff. I'll email this over to you. Look at it, so on and so forth. But again, if every 10 leads, I know I can close about 2 to 3 deals. My girl, who's a rookie, she closes 1 to 2. To 10 leads. So
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it's again, at the ROI. It's all about ROI.
So I'm sure I can feel the spirit of final expense agents listening to this. How the hell, this is what they tell me. I've experienced this, so I kind of understand, but I'm curious about your explanation. How the hell can you do this in 15 to 20 minutes?
Which one?
From cold to close.
Final expense?
Or term, anything.
Oh, term.
It's like, wow,
term,
most people are used to sitting at home for an hour before they actually might ask for a sale. So how do you do it so fast?
It's just when I get a guy on the phone, again, on sense, this is how I look at this. Now, final expense is different. 15 minutes, that's not happening with final expense. Let's get that very straight. Because a lot of times, 90% of the times when I sell a final expense policy, there is 15 minutes. Within 15 minutes, they're saying, yes, I'll do it. But then there's a whole situation where you got to do the 3-way, the point of sale. I ask the health questions before we even get on the phone, so they know what the questions that are coming. So I basically say, listen, let's go over the questions to make sure you qualify for this product. So I ask the entire questions, whether it's Mutual of Omaha, well, not them, Royal Neighbors, Liberty Bankers, Sentinel, security life or prosperity, things of that nature. So I'll ask them all the questions, but when you get on the phone, it's usually a 30 to 40-minute deal from start to finish when you're doing the voice signature and everything else.
Right.
But a lot of times the sale is done within 15 minutes. Now with term, my fastest term policy from start to finish, stone cold on the phone, was 11 minutes.
Wow.
Stone cold. I mean, literally at the rates in 5 minutes. I mean, literally qualifying, know what the rate is within 4 minutes. Okay. Going back and forth a little bit for what the price, the coverage. And then after that, it's just the application. Okay. And yeah, well, that was at Select Quote. You know, I mean, right now I got audio. I got some audios that I close people within 13 to 15 minutes.
Do you find that you're faster over the phone than you were face to face?
Yeah, that's it. Absolutely. I'll tell you why. Because when people, 90% of my leads are people over the internet. They're searching. Okay, people that are searching over the internet, in my opinion, they want something quick. They don't want the whole song and dance. They just want to. They do a Google search, life insurance over 75. They got that me and any variation on the first page. They click on. They fill out a lead form. I call them. They want something fast. That's how I go into it. Now, I don't go into it like lightning fast, leaving them behind. It's a conversation next to each other. I mean, we're having a conversation. We're building rapport on the fly. Okay. I don't sit back and be like, well, you know what? I got 12 minutes to build rapport. So I'm going to do that. And we talk about everything. Now you're becoming their friend. Friends don't buy from friends. So I'm not a big believer in over gaining rapport where, you know, because you start talking to a client. You look at you, well, holy crap, I've been talking to this guy for 33 minutes. We haven't even talked about what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have a way with talking on the phone, and I have a way in personality-wise making people laugh, going through the health questions, usually when about the owner plan, do you have a pilot's license? Usually people are cracking up at that point. You know what I mean? Just stuff like that, you know, just giving you an example. But it's gaining rapport on the fly. And when people are searching for life insurance online, and this is how I portray it, they want something fast. They don't want the old way of you know, guy coming out to your house for 3 hours, sitting down, going over terms, ULs, Y and Y. They want it fast, in my opinion. So I go into it like that, and I just assume it's that way, unless they. And then again, they'll tell me different, okay? But I'll wait until they do. You know, other than that, it's my biggest thing when it comes to sales over the telephone is assuming the sale from start to finish. And 9 times out of 10, I'll get right down to getting the application information from, right down to the SOC. That's when I get my first brush back. Whereas a lot of other agents, they'll start getting their first brush back midstream or in the beginning at the intro, where I get right through right to the end. He already agreed to the price, and I'm getting my first objection as I'm taking the application questions. You know,
I think it would be better to phrase what you do as, you know, speed is the abscess, or speed is the it's when you don't have excess. And just listening to your presentation, you say enough in a certain way that it gets the point across, builds value, authority, trust, so that you don't have to think about, you know, the 15 minutes of bullshitting, you know, that's pointless. Because I mean, I know people are listening to this and how you opened up the presentation. I mean, the way that you do this is like you're catching people's attention right away. You know, there's something about the way and how you say it. And I think it's important for agents to listen to this, because you just exude this, like, I'm here to help you. I'm on a mission. I'm on a job. This is why I'm here.
It's just what I do for a living.
And there's something to be said about that, because sometimes it's the whole mannerism in which you have. It's the agent should have that conveys this kind of, like, you're almost like, I would say you're like a doctor. You know, the doctor doesn't come in and BS around. He gets right down to business. Yeah. And there's that respect in how he enters. There's a lot of psychology there that I think telesales guys especially.
You nailed it right there. You nailed the psychology and the philosophy behind the sale and the psychology of it, and knowing what the client, how to lead the client through the conversation, and making him feel comfortable at the same time. And that's really the most important thing, the psychology of it, is just understanding what they're looking for. And also not being weak. Not being weak over the phone. Just say, listen, I mean, you know, that's why I always say, listen, if I get any brush back in the beginning, I'm like, listen, you kicking tires, window shopping. What are we doing here? I say it just like that. And, you know, I mean, and if they really get pushed back, and sometimes you do this with some people up north, okay, in the Northern Star, they get a little attitude, like Massachusetts, stuff like that, where you literally have to professionally slap them, I guess, like get to the point,
Yeah.
where you got to do that sometimes. And then afterward, they're eating out of your hands. They
Right.
like you get their respect. Now, again, it all depends on what
Right.
part of the country you're in. Now, the guy I speak to in Massachusetts is very different from the guy I speak in Alabama. Not even close.
Right.
Okay, somebody that I speak in the Midwest. Now, when I speak to people on the phone, I'll get their demeanor in the first 30 seconds of the phone call, and I'll just try to emulate how they speak.
Do you
Okay,
pace
and
yourself the same way as they do, as they talk?
yes. I mean, if it's off Northeast, I'm guns blaring. You know what I mean? That's where I come from. I know how they think up there. It's all attitude. They respect you when you give them a little slap. That's just the way they are up there. But
Yeah.
down
Oh yeah.
south, a little different. Just be a little more sincere, little more passionate. And again, I try. Not every phone call. I still be myself at every phone call. But it's just you just got to adapt. You got to be a
Yeah.
chameleon
Right.
who you're on the phone with. You can't be dimensional. You got
Right.
to be more of a chameleon. You know what I mean?
Have you always had that? Was that something you've learned, or did you just have that, or did you? I
It's
mean,
it's something. I don't want to say it's something that you definitely have to have it. But
yeah.
it's something you can learn as well. I mean, it's all about your personality. I mean, if you have a personality that people like, I'm a people person. If I walk into a room, have a conversation, people like me. Okay, I like I'm a people guy, so it's definitely something you can teach yourself. All right, but you got to have the personality too. You just have to have
Yeah.
personality. Like you walk into a house, man. Within they love you. I tell you, whether they buy or sell or don't take anything, they love David when they leave. They just like you.
Well, it's
Okay.
funny. It's funny too, because I've noticed that. Like, I don't ever like have actively thought about mirroring or setting the same. I mean, I've read all that stuff, but like it happens naturally. And I'm thinking about myself and just wonder, did I ever learn that? But like, even like my tonality will change. So if someone's
Yes.
quiet, I'll
Some
talk
voice
lower.
inflection, tonality. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's key.
It just, yeah. So it's just, and it all, but I am actively mirroring them. And I think that's something that's really important too. So anyways, kind of curious.
Yeah.
Go back to the leads here. So I remember you talking about at the event, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
You give up on leads after a certain point. You're done. You move on to the next ones. Can you kind of explain to the audience kind of
Yeah,
what that
meaning like
means?
how many times I call them, or
Yes. Yeah.
yes. I mean, these are when I worked at SelectQuote, they spent a lot of money, okay, on knowing this information. You're talking about at one time they spent $70 million in marketing a year.
Wow.
So they knew metrics, okay? So when you're making on a telesales, that is, okay, the metrics of contact ratio is very, very important in the first 5 phone calls. And it's key. The first and fifth phone call is about 22% of your contact ratio. The second, third, and fourth is your sweet spot. 75%. If you're going to contact a person, it's 75% of the time it's going to be those calls right there.
Right.
After call 5, it drops less than 3%. So here's the deal. If you don't have enough leads, you got to call after 5. You got to figure it out, right? You got to make that fifth call. But if you got to get example, if you get 100 leads, okay, and you call, I mean, if you do it the right way, you'll call probably by the 4th day, you're going to have 100 phone calls a day you're making. Okay. If you just cycle through and you're making 15, you're getting 15 leads a day. By the 4th day, you got a motion going. You got at least 100 phone calls with follow-ups and callbacks and blah, 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 blah. All right. But, after call 5, think about that. Why would you call after that? If you're calling another 100 leads, call 6 to 10, you got a less than 3% contact ratio.
Yeah, a lot
That
of
means
waste
for
of time.
a lot of 100 phone calls, you might contact 3, where those brand new leads, 100 phone calls, you could contact like literally, 10 or 15, okay, or 20,
Yeah.
and there's less than 3.
Right.
So I do this really now. When I first became an independent, I called up to call 11. I used to get deals at call 10, but all the time I would waste on doing that, I could just call new leads and I can get 5 or 6 or 10, 5 to 6 times more contacts.
Right.
So it's really, really important to understand the metrics behind it when it comes to call management and time management. Time management is so crucial when you telesales. A little different when you go out, you make 8 appointments face-to-face or 5 or 6 appointments in a day. You sit in front of 5 or 6 people, you're probably going to close 3 if you're halfway a good final expense face-to-face agent. But when you're on the phone, and I always say this too, with the aspect of driving around as a face-to-face, I know that I can go, by the time you go from one appointment to the next, I can call 30 people and get another guy on the phone.
Sure.
Or I can call 5 people and get another guy on the phone. All right, so that's the correlation between face-to-face and that. But again, telesales, it's all about contacts, okay, and it's all about time management. It's so crucial,
What do you do what do you do with anything with those leads that you've reached the 5 maximum? Do you drip them? Do you text them? Do you any kind of follow-up, or do you just say you're done with them?
No, what I do at that point is I'll upload them to a constant contact email drip. Okay, I have a constant contact account that we do newsletters every month. So I have a database of thousands of emails that will blast out whatever the awareness month is. It could be breast cancer awareness month or whatever the health impairment awareness. I had an article that I wrote on it. So it'll be an interlink from that topic in the newsletter to that article where they can go and read about the life insurance and how to get life insurance with that, health impairment. Okay. And they can fill out a lead form, blah, blah, blah. And then they'll get hit on the anniversary, okay, of whatever they went and got the lead or their birthday. So they'll it's a drip. And again, we get 6% response. Now, again, I'm not asking 6%. When I say 6%, I'm not like, ooh, 6. No, I just want an opportunity to engage.
Right.
Give me, I just want to engage. If I get somebody on the phone and they're engaging and they're halfway receptive, they're closable.
Right. Sure.
That's all. It's just a creative way to shake the dead leaves out of the tree and pick up a leaf that you can call. So that's what we do. Constant contact. We do newsletters on the email drips. Let the technology take care of what we're doing.
Right.
So we sort of outsource that to a different program.
So what would you say are the advantages of selling over the phone? And you can describe this, whether it's term, any kind of insurance, final expense versus face-to-face, because you've done both. Why do you prefer telesales to face-to-face?
I'll tell you right now, my biggest day, telesales, I wrote 21 policies in a day. There's no way you can do that face-to-face in a day. I've written 63 policies in a week. There's no way, that probably is possible if you write 9 a day and you're working every day. And I've written, when I was on top of my game at SelectQuote, I was writing 130 policies a month. You're just not doing that face-to-face. So granted, and the other advantages, in my opinion, are borders. When you're jumping in your car, you're restricted by zip codes. You can only go so far, right? A couple towns over and so on and so forth. No shows. Stuff like that, where, again, I can sit behind a desk and I can call Washington, one phone call, Illinois is the next phone call, Florida the next, write somebody in Texas, turn around, write another guy in Wisconsin. And what I do at the end of the night is I take all my West Coast leads and I disposition them for later on that night. You'll see me writing policies at 11 o'clock at night. You're just not doing that face-to-face unless the client's like, listen, dude, you got to come over because I work. I get off work at 11. Can you get here at 11:30? That's the gift of telesales, is you're not restricted by time zones. You're not restricted by zip codes. You're pretty much, I'm licensed in 49 states and I'm considering getting licensed in Hawaii. I am not a big fan of that because I will be writing policies at 3 o'clock in the morning because that's when a client will talk to me.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So that's one of the reasons why I didn't want to do that, is because if they want to, I can wait. I'll wake up at 3 o'clock. I probably won't sleep now, but I'm in 49 states. Alaska. I know I've had a handful of Hawaii leads come in from my website. So it's like,
okay,
I can't just, $250 is worth me. I write one deal. It's usually a $2,000-$3,000 deal because, again, 70% of my traffic to my website are seniors over the age of 75 looking for a GUL, not more than just a final expense policy. You know, something with substance. $250,000, $500,000 at age 70 is a big, big, big premium. So it's worth it.
What's the best strategy for a new agent who wants to telesell, but they're concerned, well, how many licenses do I have to get? Do I have to get all 49 that you have? Like, is there a way to scale this up without spending so much in licensing fees?
Yeah, licensing fees can be expensive. I pay $5,000 every 2 years just licensing fees. I mean, we have that broken up. But as a new agent, get five good states. Obviously, your home state. Get a couple more. You want to pick different time zones. All right. The campaigns I have on Facebook, I got Colorado, Montana, Indiana, Maryland. So I have a little bit of a gist of time zones there. But that's the key. You want to get at least 5 states, not even counting your home state, because if you can get 6, that's even better. But you want to break them up in the time zones. I mean, California is a definite. Yeah. California is like 15% of the leads that come in nationwide is from California.
Right.
That's a give me. You have to have it. It's expensive. It's like a couple $100, but again, one deal pays for that. But yeah, just five or 6 to start off, and you want to get in multiple time zones so you can be flexible with your schedule. Again, you can call people up to 11:30 at night, West Coast, because it's 8:30 there. So it's that's one thing I would tell you. It's don't be so. One thing about new agents too, when they come out, whether it's final expensive term, they just have to stop putting up obstacles. They put up so many mental obstacles. They analyze paralysis. They get overanalyze. What is it? What's that? What's
analysis by paralysis?
Thank you.
I know it very well.
Yeah, I get it back. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you probably talk to a lot of agents that are like they overthink things. They feel like they need to know everything before they even jump in the pool. But it's just you just got to dive in. You just got to dive in, mess up, screw up often. Just fail often. That's how you get great. The greatest agents I think out there did that. The greatest success stories in any field, that's how they do it. They don't sit back and go, well, I'm not going to do anything until I know everything. It doesn't happen that way. You got to learn on the fly. You got to get on that bike, fall down, scrape your knee.
There's a quote that goes around on Facebook I've seen, and it's like, like dumb people, it basically construes that, smart people learn from people who made the mistakes. But I think that in a sense is incorrect. I think you should be willing to screw up, because there is an earned wisdom through trial and error versus, if you're smart enough, I guess, to not make the mistake, that's a good thing. But so much of everybody's knowledge who are successful in some form or fashion is because of they learned what not to do by application.
Yes.
You can't be afraid of not messing up, and understand the more you mess up, the key is to learn from that mistake and not repeat it again, because then that gets you that much closer to what does work.
And nobody can be nobody can teach you better than your failures.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Anybody can give you a script. Anybody can tell you should be doing this, but you're really, truly not going to really embrace it unless you figure it out yourself. That's why it's just you go 150% into something. Just don't think about anything else. Mess up often. I told my fiance when she never sold in her life. She just started doing final expense this year, and I said, honey, just mess up. Just don't be afraid. You're never going to know everything. Do it. All right. To this day, I don't know everything. The agent that's been doing this for 40 years doesn't know everything. Things change, but don't worry about it. Just get on the phone. You need presentations. That's how you're going to get good. And don't forget about underwriting and everything else. You'll learn that as you go. Just figure out one carrier and stick with it. I mean, North Star, AA. That's all they are. That's all they pretty much sell. And it's just that's just a testimony of what I'm talking about. Just don't overcomplicate things.
So great interview, Danny. I really appreciate your time. And like you said, you're usually super busy closing deals. So I do appreciate this hour you spent with us. Where can people who are watching this find out more about you? Can you kind of just direct us where to go? And then I'll put a link below as well.
PinnacleQuote.com. I mean, that's my website. It's a great, if you ever need to know information about, as far as health impairments and stuff like that, it's a great place to go. InsuranceForBurial.com, same thing. I got articles on multiple health impairments. Okay. Also, we got a YouTube channel. Okay. Let me see here. Let me just go ahead and give you the link to that.
What's the YouTube channel name? Is it Pinnacle Quotes?
Yeah, Pinnacle Quote Life Insurance Specialist. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And I'll put a link to all this
in
the bottom.
That's fine.
Best way to reach. Well, very good, Danny. Thank you so much for your time, man. This is a great interview, and I think anybody that's interested in telesales, this is a perfect format of what to duplicate. Again, Danny's made the mistakes. We all have, and this is wisdom speaking. So take this to heart and implement and execute. I think that's the lesson of the day.
Most important thing. And just give 150%, man. Just always, no matter what, just do 150%. It's absolutely impossible to do something over and over again and not become good at it. It's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. Okay. and just make one less mistake a day. Learn something every day, and you'll be off and running.
That's right. Danny, thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
Anytime, David. Have a good day, buddy.